Dear students, in the previous classes we have completed till question number 16. So let us go with question number 17 here. We have which one is correct match of three items and their grouping category. So three items had been mentioned in each option towards left hand side, and towards right the matching options has been given. We have to identify which among these following four are correct. See, let us go with the first option. We have cytosine, uracil and thiamine. So here they are saying it as what? Pyrimidines. For this to understand that when we are talking about the nucleic acids, alright, that is the DNA and RNA, alright, there are 4 nitrogen bases, alright, 4 nitrogen bases are present in total, alright. So we have firstly, alright, adenine, alright, then we have secondly guanine, alright, then we have thirdly the cytosine, alright, and fourthly we have thymine, alright. Now let me tell you, my dear students, that with respect to purines, alright, when you are talking about purines, the adenine and guanine nitrogen bases are the two types of purines, alright, and pyrimidines, these are the again categories under nitrogen bases. So pyrimidines are the three are present. We have cytosine, alright, then we have thymine and we have uracil. So in case of RNA, instead of thymine we can find the uracil, okay, as the pyrimidine base. Dear students, this is with respect to that. Now see here, there is no thymine here. Instead of thiamine, alright, it should have been thymine, alright. So thiamine is a vitamin B12, it is vitamin B12, alright. So that cannot be the option, my dear students. So we cannot go for option 1. So it is the wrong option, my dear friends, okay. So next let me move with the second option here, alright. Next we have here malleus, incus and cochlea. See, so in the middle here, three smallest bones we have, my dear friends. That is, first one is malleus, alright, then we have the incus and then we have the stapes. Instead of stapes, they have given as what? Cochlea. So cochlea is not the bone, in fact it is a part of the ear, alright. Important, snail like structure, coiled structure which is present in the ear. So anyway, so it should have been malleus, incus and stapes, which are rather called as ear ossicles, alright my friends. So now hence second option is also wrong. Next let us move with the third option. Ileum, ischium and pubis have been given here. See, let me tell you that in the pelvic girdle, alright, so we can definitely find two coxal bones, my dear friends, alright, two coxal bones. So these two coxal bones, alright, in each of it we can find the fusion of three bones, that is the ileum, ischium and pubis. In each of the coxal bone, alright, we can find three fused bones, ileum, alright, ischium, and then we also have the pubis, my dear friends, alright. So these three are indeed present as the, alright, fused bones in each coxal bone, which is a part of the pelvic girdle, alright. So now dear students, with respect to this I can definitely tell that yes, coxal bones of pelvic girdle they have given for this ileum, ischium and pubis. So this is the correct option, my dear friends. But there is also fourth option which we need to understand here. See, fourth option we have here is actin, myosin and rhodopsin. See, we are very well familiar with actin and myosin, alright. They are rather called as contractile proteins, my dear friends, alright, which help in the muscular contraction. See, actin is the thin filament, myosin is the thick filament, and sliding of the actin over myosin helps in muscular contraction. That's why they are called as contractile proteins. Dear students, one more option is given here, rhodopsin. See, when we are talking about the retina of eye, my dear friends, remember I am talking about retina of eye. Here, the rods contain a red protein. We have rods and cones, alright. So, the rod cells contain a red protein that is called as rhodopsin, my dear friends, alright. Or this rhodopsin can also be called to as visual purple. Alright, so this is the derivative of, my friends, vitamin A. Alright, so with respect to the same, see, actin and myosin, okay, they have given here as muscle proteins. Yes, we can agree, but rhodopsin is not a muscle protein, so we cannot go for option 4 as well. So the right option is the third option, that is ilium, ischium and pubis, which are the coxal bones of the pelvic girdle. So next question we have, Haversian canals occur in, 4 options have been given, all bones, long bones, alimentary canal and none of the above. So dear students, first of all let me tell you that when we are talking about the Haversian canal, alright, it is present in the long bones. We can find the Haversian canal in the long bones. First point is that, alright, especially of we can say of mammals rather, alright, very prominently it can be seen in the mammals, my dear friends. And long bones, like for example, let us give humerus, alright, and femur, alright, humerus of the forelimb and femur of the hind limb, alright. In these two long bones, alright, definitely we can find the Haversian canals. So these Haversian canals are the longitudinal canals, my dear friends. Okay, longitudinally they are present, alright, they are longitudinal canals, alright. So that run in the walls of the long bones. We can find it in the walls of long bones, alright. In the Haversian canals we can also find the nerve fibers, alright. Along with the nerve fibers, definitely even capillaries can also be present, alright. 2 capillaries can be present in each of them, 1 or 2 capillaries, fine. So we can say that Haversian canal now is a part of the long bones. So in the given options, the correct answer we have to go for is option 2, my dear friends, alright. Next we have, Haversian system is a diagnostic feature of avian bones, reptilian bones, mammalian bones and bone of all mammals. So when we are considering this Haversian system, my dear friends, okay, in simple I can tell you that this Haversian system, or we can also call it to as osteon, alright. It is the structural unit of compact bone, alright. It's the structural unit of bone, we can say it to as, alright. Fine, my dear friends. So we know now that Haversian system is very important unit, alright, structural unit of our bone. Now we are talking about each Haversian system, alright. See, this each Haversian system, alright, has elongated cylinder like, long axis, alright. It forms the, alright, elongated, alright, cylinder, alright, oriented parallel to the long axis of the bone, alright. It's present as such. Dear friends, when we are talking about this, let me tell you that in the Haversian system we can find a central Haversian canal, alright. See, we have a central Haversian canal like this, alright. So this is the central Haversian canal, okay. In this central Haversian canal, alright, definitely we can say that many nerves and blood vessels are present, alright. We can find many nerves as well as we can find many blood vessels in the Haversian canal, which is a part of the Haversian system. So now, dear students, so this, as I said you, that the Haversian system is a prominent feature of the mammalian bones. So we have to go for option number 3, that will be our right answer. Next question we have, long bones function in support erythrocyte and leukocyte synthesis, support and erythrocyte synthesis, erythrocyte formation. Dear students, when we are talking about the long bones, let me tell you that they are very much harder and they are very dense. All right, they provide, see, first is strength, all right, followed by the structure as well. They provide the strength, structure, as well as they help in the movement, so we can say mobility. All right, these three important aspects they do it. Typically we can find these long bones in the, all right, upper and lower extremities. We can say in simple sense as what, arms and legs. All right, say for example, if you consider the femur, all right, that is the example, best example of a long bone, or the thigh bone, what we call, no, so it's the best example for long bone. Or even in humerus you can say, which is present in the lower extremities, forelimb we can say rather. Dear students, see, the production of blood cells, we call it as what, hemopoiesis. All right, this is the production of blood cells, my dear friends. This takes place again in the epiphysis. See, when I am saying epiphysis, the middle portion of long bones we can say. All right, in the middle portion of long bones we can see the formation of blood cells through a process called as what, hemopoiesis. Dear students, here, see, let me tell you that as already I have stated that they are very much hard and denser, and definitely they provide support as well. So we can say they provide support, they are helping in hemopoiesis, that is formation of blood cells. All right, that is both red blood cells as well as the W blood cells, WBCs, all right, that is leukocytes. So rather we can say that, see, the WBCs and RBCs are the erythrocytes and the leukocytes. You know, they are synthesized by the, in fact, red bone marrow. All right, majorly. So definitely we can go for option number 2, that is the long bones provide support as they are harder and denser, and through their bone marrow, especially the red one, they can help us in the formation of RBCs, which are also called as erythrocytes, and WBCs, which are also referred to as leukocytes. So go for option number 2. Next question we have, obturator foramen occurs in pelvic girdle, pectoral girdle, cranium and vertebrae are the 4 options. Dear students, with respect to this question, first of all let me tell you that when we are talking about the pelvic girdle, all right, we know that it is formed of a pair of coxal bones. All right, see, in each coxal bone we know it is formed of 3 fused bones, that is ilium, then we have ischium, and then we have pubis. These are the 3, all right, bones which form each coxal bone in the pelvic girdle. Now dear students, here let me tell you that in between the ischium and pubis, see, in between this ischium and pubis, all right, we can find, all right, the obturator, all right, foramen. So what is the role of this obturator foramen? All right, see, obturator foramen helps in the, all right, passage of the nerves as well as the blood vessels. It helps in the passage of nerves and blood vessels. So my dear students, without any hesitation, please go for option number 1, that will be your right answer. Next we have, a cricket player is chasing a ball, which group of muscles is contributing in this movement? All right, here when a cricket player chases a ball, we need to identify what muscles will be in movement. All right. Yes, it's an interesting question, we can say, dear students. See, let me tell you firstly that when we talk about our hind limb, all right, it is composed of femur, which is also called as the thigh bone, all right, or it is the longest bone, my dear friends, in our body. All right, so femur or thigh bone is present. Secondly, tibia, all right, fibula is also present, tibia, fibula, and then we have tarsals. All right, so tarsals can be said as ankle. All right, ankle bones, which are 7 in number, my dear students, tarsals. And then we have metatarsals. All right, see, these metatarsals are 5 in number, my friends. Then we have the phalanges in the digits, or in the toes rather, so which is 14 in number, my friends. So let me repeat it. In the hind limb we can find femur, tibia, fibula, tarsals, metatarsals and phalanges. Now when a cricket player is chasing a ball, alright, that means to say he is running. See, when he is chasing the ball, it is clearly indicating that he is in movement, he is running. Alright, so during running, hind limb assists motion. Alright, hence we can say that muscles of hind limbs contribute in motion. So among the given options, you can go for tarsals, femur, metatarsals and tibia, my dear friends. Alright, that will be the correct option. See, when we talk about the first option, yes, femur is correct, tibia is correct, metatarsal is correct. But they have given malleus, which is wrong, my dear friends. Alright, which is the bone of the middle ear, smallest bone. Then pelvis they have given, so pelvis is not the option here. So ulna as well as ulna is also not the option. So patella is also not the option, but tarsals can be. But all 4 should be true for this option. Okay. Then sternum. Sternum is the bone which is present in the thoracic cavity, the center of the chest. All right. So which does not assist in running. And femur, tibia, fibula assist, but there is no sternum. So considering all the given 4 options, the right option we can go for is, that is with respect to 4, tarsals, femur, metatarsals and tibia. Next we have, which of the following joints allow limited movement? Fibrous joint, cartilaginous joint, synovial joint, and none of the above are the 4 options. Okay, my friends, let me move with each one of it. First, let us talk about the fibrous joint. See, fibrous joint is also called as fixed or immovable joint. Immovable joint, my dear friends. So easily we can understand that this cannot be the option. Alright, when we say the fibrous joint as what? Fixed or immovable joint, definitely there is no movement at all. In fact, let me tell you, they don't have any joint. There is no joint, alright, cavity or space between the bones. There is no joint cavity between the bones, my dear friends. Alright, so option 1 cannot be the answer. So let us talk about the second one, cartilaginous joint. See, cartilaginous joint allows much more movement, alright, between the bones. Alright, we can find this providing the movement between the bones. Alright, it is much better than fibrous joint, which does not provide the movement at all. Alright, so it provides limited movement, very less movement we can say. So it is better than fibrous joint, but not a very high movement can be observed here. So okay, let us say option 2 is correct here, because it is providing us with what? Limited movement. But let us also understand, next we have synovial joint. See, dear students, wherever there is articulation, wherever there is more movement, especially we can say, alright, when we talk about the limbs, alright, definitely we can say in the contact of the articulating bones, where the two bones join, alright, we can say articulating bones, we can find the synovial joint, my dear friends. So we can say that these synovial joints allow bones to slide past each other. Alright, bones will slide past each other, they slide past each other. Alright, remember that. Or to rotate around each other, it helps. So maximum movement can be seen in the synovial joint. Alright, so the given question is, where do we find the limited movement? So when we consider that, as I said, option 2 is the correct one. Dear students, here please look at the question number 24 picture. So there is a picture where many bones have been represented of skull and the facial bones. We know that the bones of the skull, alright, when we talk, we have the cranium and the facial bones. Cranium bones are around 8, that is the bones of brain box, and facial bones are 14. So totally 22 bones are present. Now here, among the given here options, see facial bones, they have given few, maxilla, mandible, alright, the lower jaw and the upper jaw has been mentioned here in the picture. But dear students, you please look at the A, B, C, D, E, alright, the 5 options we need to identify here. See, A here represents, alright, see, just in front of the temporal bone, please look at the picture. So A represents the sphenoid bone, my dear friends. And then B represents, we can say B, see, just in the eye socket, you are able to observe they have marked B there. So B here represents the ethmoid bone. Dear students, then C you have, C is near the eye, alright, in the eye socket itself, which is near the what we can say, just now I said the B, alright, ethmoid bone. Just near that we can also find one more bone called as lacrimal bone. So C is lacrimal bone. Then D, my dear friends, see, D is nasal bone. Very clearly it can be indicated, alright, near the nose they have marked. So go for D as nasal bone. Then E, finally we have E, alright. So below the, what we can say here, the eye socket, alright, or above the maxilla, they have marked here E. So E here is zygomatic bone, my dear friends. So among the given options, the option 1 is the correct one. See, which as you can observe, 4 options have been given, alright. Option 1 is correct, which are marked there. See, option 1 is indicating A as sphenoid bone, B as the ethmoid bone, then we have the lacrimal bone as C, D as nasal bone, and E as zygomatic bone. So please go for option number 1. 25th question we have, during contraction of muscles, the calcium ions attaches to, or Ca2 plus attaches to troponin C, troponin A, calmodulin, calbindin are the 4 options. Dear students, here again I can definitely say that it is an easy question. See, we know first of all that calcium remains in the sarcoplasmic reticulum, alright, it remains in the sarcoplasmic reticulum or the endoplasmic reticulum of the muscle cell until released by a stimulus. If there is no stimulus, alright, definitely there will be no release of calcium. If there is stimulus, calcium will be definitely released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. See, calcium when there is a stimulus will bind, release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum and binds to the troponin, alright, it binds, after its release it binds to the troponin, one of the protein, alright. So this troponin, alright, when it binds to it, alright, the calcium, so the troponin will its shape will be changed, alright, and tropomyosin will be removed from the binding sites, alright. When troponin binds, tropomyosin, alright, will be removed from the binding sites. Remember that here this happens when during the muscular contraction, my dear friends. See, cross bridge will definitely be all right, it clings or it continues to be there until the calcium ions and ATP are no longer available. So let me tell you that during contraction of muscles, calcium attaches here to the troponin C. Alright, so go for option 1. The last question for today's session we have here is Hansen's disc occurs in myofibril of striated muscle, myofibril of unstriated muscle, myofibril of heart muscle, and none of the above are the 4 options, my dear friends. See, first of all, let me tell you that Hansen's disc is also called as H zone. It's a part of the sarcomere. Okay, let me tell you, my dear friends, sarcomere is the basic unit of the muscle fiber. We know that. All right. See, this H zone or the Hansen's disc is the light central region of actin filament. Note the point. It is the light central region, all right, of the actin filaments, my friends. Actin filaments. Actin filaments are the thin filaments, right? We know that. And myosin are the thick filaments. So, anyway, this is the zone where only thick filaments are present. Alright, it is present, alright, see, it is the light central region of the actin filaments, indeed. But it passes through the myosin. Okay, let me show you through the diagram. When we consider the diagram, see, okay, let me represent the sarcomere, the basic unit of the, in fact, muscle fiber. Okay, see, if you consider this as the actin, all right, and this as the myosin, my friends, all right. So here again actin will be present, so here myosin will be present, all right. So now, dear students, see, H zone is present between, see, this is actin, all right, and this is myosin. Alright, see, in between actin itself we can find this H zone. Alright, see, this is M line, my dear friends, what I have drawn now. This is M line which is present in the center of the thick myosin filaments. See, this zone which is created between here, in between the two actin filaments, this is called as the H zone. When there is a high stretching of muscles, we can find this H zone where actin filaments will be pushed much more, you know. So this is what is the H zone, my dear friends. All right, see, already we are well familiar with the I zone. All right, see, from here to here. All right, see, only where there is no dark, what I can say, myosin filament, that is the I band. All right, and A band is very easy to understand. See, this portion. All right, this portion is the A band, my friends. So among the given options, all right, it's very clear. See, this is the Z line, this is Z line, from one Z line to the another Z line, this is one more Z line, we call it a sarcomere. So anyway, now definitely by looking at the, you know, the rough diagram, we have understood that Hansen's disc, all right, is all right, the myofibril of striated muscle, all right. So myofibril of the striated muscle, my dear friends, all right. So option 1 is the correct one, and it is present, all right, passing, in fact it is present between the two actin filaments, all right, when there is high stretching. So thank you very much. So this completes today's session.